I'm Sienna, 35, standing barefoot in the Lakeview hallway of a house they said I'd never own. The morning light filters through two-story windows, warming the hardwood floor beneath my feet. I sip my coffee in silence. The same silence they once used to erase me. My latest sculpture, a bloom of rusted steel, casts its shadow across the foyer like a wound that healed wrong but healed anyway. Naomi's voice floats in from the kitchen, teasing the air with music and memory. And then the doorbell rings. I freeze, mug still in hand. Check the security feed. They're all there. Evelyn, Diane, Brandon, the ones who erased me from every reunion, every group chat, every photo frame on the mantle. Now they stand on my porch, pastel smiles in place, like the past was just a phase I imagined. But this house, this life, it's not imagination. It's proof. Before I tell you what happened when I opened that door, let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to rebuild yourself from silence? And if stories about reclaiming your power and rewriting your legacy speak to you, subscribe. Because this isn't just about me. It's about all of us who were told we didn't belong, until we built places where we did. The laughter outside floated in through the half-open window of my studio apartment, sweet and stupid like it didn't know any better. I sat cross-legged on my paint-stained futon, a half-finished canvas leaning against the wall beside me. My inbox glowed with new messages, school loans, gallery flyers, a coupon for soy milk. And then there it was, the family newsletter. Subject, Hail Family Reunion, Summer 2014. I clicked it open, instinctively searching for my name. Paragraphs about picnic dates, potluck signups, who's bringing what. A slideshow banner showed photos of last year's reunion. Brandon tossing a football, Grandma Evelyn under a white parasol, my mom's cucumber sandwiches displayed like they belonged in Bon Appetit. But me? Not a word. No RSVP link addressed to me. No side note saying, Sienna, let us know if you're in town. Nothing. I refreshed. I checked spam. I stared at it for a full 5 minutes before the silence shaped itself into something sharp. Not a mistake. Not an oversight. A choice. I opened Instagram. My cousin Mallory had already posted a photo from the planning brunch. My mom, Evelyn, and Aunt Diane at some country club patio, all pastel dresses and smiles too wide. The caption read, Plotting the Hale Reunion. Family first, family first. I sat very still. The room, already hot, felt denser. My eyes landed on the wall across from me, where I'd painted a mural last winter. Sunflowers climbing from floor to ceiling, bold and reaching. Just like I used to be. Back when I thought being different was still allowed. I opened another tab and searched my inbox. I typed keywords. Reunion. Hail. Invite. Nothing. Just the usual string of emails from Brandon about crypto tips and my mother forwarding articles like how to manifest success with subject lines like, just thinking of you, honey. Sure you were. I opened a new draft and typed, subject, quick question, to mom.hale@gmail.com. Hey mom, hope you're well. Just wondering. I saw the reunion info. Did I miss an invite? Love, S. sent. I stared at the screen. A red notification popped up in the corner. Naomi. Naomi. Ugh. Just found out I wasn't invited to Leah's wedding. Not even a courtesy text. Her mom literally hugged me in church last month. Me. Same. My family's pretending I don't exist. She reacted with a broken heart emoji, then a gif of someone flipping a table. It made me smile a little. Naomi always knew how to throw shade just right. My phone buzzed again. Mom had replied. Hi, sweetie. Not sure. Maybe your grandmother thought you'd be uncomfortable? You know how big groups get sometimes. Love you. Mom, I read it twice. Once for the words and once for what they didn't say. They didn't forget. They excluded me. I opened a folder on my desktop and named it Proof. Into it, I dragged screenshots, The email, the Instagram post, the reply from Mom. I found the text from Naomi and saved that too. My fingers moved automatically, like I'd done this before, which I had. The file size grew with every click. It wasn't much, but it was something. A record. A breadcrumb trail. The weight of it hit slowly, like cold water creeping into your clothes after a fall. They weren't just annoyed at me for choosing art over law school. They weren't just embarrassed that I quoted Rumi at the dinner table. They had decided I wasn't one of them, and somehow they thought I'd just accept that. I stood and looked out the window. The city stretched wide and golden, but my reflection in the glass was small, fractured between the panes. My gaze drifted back to the RSVP list on the screen. She stares at the RSVP list and whispers, "They want to pretend I'm not real? Let's see how long that lasts." 5 years. No birthdays, no holidays, no missed calls, just a vacuum where family used to be. The city gave nothing for free, but it also asked nothing in return. That was what I loved about New York. You could vanish and still exist here. Nobody asked why you didn't go home for Christmas. No one questioned why your emergency contact line stayed blank on forms. They assumed your people were somewhere. Alive, functional, involved. But for me, there were none. Just a thinning silence that no longer felt strange. Naomi and I moved into a rent-controlled shoebox in the East Village in early 2015, the kind of apartment with walls so thin you could hear the neighbor's cat cough. We turned the kitchen into a staging area for half-finished set pieces and paint canisters. The living room doubled as a rehearsal space and a studio. There were nights the place reeked of ramen, turpentine, and despair. But it was ours. We sealed our pact the first week, sitting on the floor under a leaking pipe. "No family bullshit," Naomi said, handing me a chipped mug of lukewarm tea. "We're our own blood now. Deal?" I clinked my mug against hers. Deal. She didn't ask what happened between me and the Hales. I didn't ask about the scar her mom left on her wrist the night Naomi came out. We both knew the answer was the same. They decided we were inconvenient. By day, Naomi auditioned actors for her one-act play in grimy basements. I painted late into the night. Murals, commissions, junk mail turned protest pieces. I applied to artist residencies like a gambler praying for a miracle. Most replies were rejections. Some were just silence. I began to keep a box of them. Rejection letters, returned mail, envelopes marked "address not found" when I tried sending Christmas cards to my old house. I stacked them under my bed. Cold, papery proof that I had become a ghost. One night, Naomi came home soaking wet from a thunderstorm, her mascara bleeding into her cheeks like war paint. She said I'm still invited if I just come as a guest. She muttered. "Who?" "My sister. Wedding next month. But I have to leave Sam at home. Can't ruin the church photos." I didn't answer. I just pulled the thickest blanket over her shoulders, then sat beside her on the floor. We didn't talk that night. Just shared a bowl of too salty ramen and the kind of silence that comes from knowing you're not crazy. You're just unwanted. That spring, I met Elliot. It started in a gallery. Of course it did. He stood too long in front of my piece titled Inheritance, a charred oil painting of a dining room with no chairs. He didn't ask me if it was about family. He didn't try to dissect the metaphor. He just looked, then said, "I get it." I don't know why, but I do. He worked at an architecture firm 2 subway stops away, always carried a leather notebook, always listened more than he spoke. We got drinks twice, then walked through Central Park like we were trying not to admit we were on dates. One night, in my studio, I told him about the proof folder. "I don't know why I keep it," I admitted, pointing to the dusty box now brimming with paper. "Maybe so I don't forget they started it." "You don't need a reason," he said. "Sometimes the record matters more than the people." He didn't offer pity, just presence. And that was rare enough to be precious. The years passed. Naomi's first play got produced off-Broadway. I sold a series of pieces to a gallery in Portland. Elliot built models of buildings that would never exist but were beautiful anyway. and the silence from the hails thickened into something solid, like a wall I no longer felt tempted to break through. I came home one night to find Naomi sitting cross-legged on the floor, sorting old postcards and letters with surgical precision. She handed me a new envelope. "What's this?" "Your birthday, from 2 years ago. I found it in the trash behind the theater. Same handwriting as your mom." I didn't open it. Naomi looked at me for a long moment, then said, "Someday they'll knock. And when they do, I hope you answer with silence. My name is on the deed. Mine alone. They called me a failure, but this house, the one they'll soon walk into, says otherwise." The morning light poured through the two-story windows like liquid affirmation. My bare feet touched warm hardwood floors as I stepped into the open living room, where every piece of furniture had been chosen with deliberate defiance. No beige, no traditional, no compromises. A 7-foot sculpture of rusted iron curled in the corner like a wound healing from the inside out. My signature glinted in the bottom corner of the glass coffee table, a custom piece I'd welded myself. Naomi let out a long whistle from the kitchen island, spinning in place with arms outstretched. "Okay, girl, are we living in a Vogue spread or an indie sci-fi movie? Because I swear I saw this house in Ex Machina." I grinned, sipping coffee. I was going for post-emotional carnage but make it chic. She leaned on the counter, biting into a croissant. "Success suits you. You know that, right?" I nodded but didn't reply. The validation didn't taste sweet. It tasted earned, heavy and quiet. Elliot emerged from the hallway, hair still damp from the shower. The guest room's bigger than our entire first apartment. Naomi raised her croissant like a toast. To the upgrade, and to the fact that we don't have to tape the windows shut when it rains. We wandered room by room. The upstairs studio faced the lake, flooded with natural light. Downstairs, the gallery wall held my favorite pieces, none for sale. Each one was a chapter I never got to write in words. Naomi stopped in front of a painting called Silenced Geography, a map of Chicago with all family addresses blacked out. "You're not bitter," she said, voice softer. "You're just archiving." I shrugged. Someone has to tell the story. In the dining room, we lingered. 12 velvet chairs, though I never hosted more than 3 people at once. Naomi tapped the edge of the table. "We should throw a reunion here. You know, just to mess with them." We both laughed, and then we didn't. The silence stretched, sticky with the ghosts of old gatherings I was never invited to. I checked my phone. A red notification blinked on Instagram. Courtney Lancaster had liked the photo I'd posted yesterday. Me standing in front of the house, keys in hand, captioned only with, "Begin again." A direct message appeared seconds later. "Courtney, is this your place?" My thumb hovered above the reply button. Naomi looked over my shoulder and frowned. "Told you, this is how it starts. They see your success before they see your pain." I didn't answer. Just walked to the lake-facing windows. Wind rippled across the water, and I thought of all the years that silence had filled my lungs like silt. Now, it filled this house. But on my terms. "Let them come," I whispered. The doorbell rang. Too soon for guests. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door, and there they were. My entire past standing on my porch, dressed in pastel lies. For a split second, the world tilted. Not dramatically, not enough for the birds to stop singing or the breeze to falter, but just enough for my stomach to lurch. Evelyn stood at the front like some misplaced statue. Pearls, ivory blouse, skin powdered into compliance. Diane hovered beside her, clutching a gift bag like a prop, while Brandon offered an awkward half-smile, his tie a little too tight, like he didn't want to be here but couldn't risk not showing up. The late sun cast long shadows across the marble threshold. I didn't move. "Well," Evelyn said, her voice warm with just the right dash of pity. "Look at you. All grown up." Behind me, Naomi's phone was already recording. I didn't need to look to know that. She stood just out of view, invisible to them, but present enough to hear. "Come in," I said flatly, stepping aside. They filed in like royalty on borrowed time, eyes darting, absorbing. Evelyn's gaze lingered on the staircase, the oversized light fixture, the art, especially the art. "It's admirable," she said at last, nodding toward a sculpture of twisted steel above the fireplace. "In its own way." I offered no reaction. If she wanted a performance, she'd have to beg for it. Diane pressed a gift bag into my hands. Just a little something from Neiman's. Brandon's daughter picked it out. She's actually considering art school. Can you believe it? I could believe she existed. I couldn't believe this was the opening line. Brandon stepped forward then, hands in his pockets. "This place is incredible, Sienna. Really. I didn't know you'd, you know, come this far." "Neither did you," I replied. He winced. Evelyn floated through the entryway like a judge inspecting the accused's quarters. "It's nice to see you found your niche. The city's changing fast, isn't it? I imagine your connections must be quite useful with all these developers swarming the lakefront." Naomi's foot tapped once behind the foyer wall. Just once. The code for, "Did you catch that?" I nodded. Evelyn smiled at a canvas in the hallway. "You've always had spirit. Even as a child, you never quite blended in, but perhaps that was your charm. You were never built for smallness." Diane chimed in. "Saccharine." "Oh, and we heard Nathan's graduation is coming up soon. I thought maybe you'd want to be involved." I blinked. "Nathan? I haven't heard that name in, what, 6 years?" She fake laughed. "Oh, don't be silly. Family is family, even when it drifts." "No," I said, stepping closer. "Drifting is what leaves do in autumn. What you did was exile." The room tightened. Evelyn's smile faltered a fraction. Just a twitch, but it cracked the varnish. I watched her pivot. "Well, water under the bridge, dear. We're all here now, aren't we? That has to mean something." Naomi leaned in the archway. "Depends on the direction the water's flowing, don't you think?" They ignored her. Classic. Brandon cleared his throat. "Look, Sienna, I know it's been complicated, but maybe this could be a turning point." I folded my arms. "A turning point to what?" He glanced at Evelyn. Evelyn didn't flinch, didn't signal, but the air was thick with unspoken cues. Naomi's phone was still recording, the screen dim but alive. I turned to face them all, voice low, controlled. "I know this isn't about Nathan's graduation. What is it you really need?" They thought I'd forgotten. They thought silence meant forgiveness. I remember everything. The dining table gleamed under soft pendant lighting, oak and glass, elegant but unpretentious. I had said it myself. Not because I wanted the evening to feel warm, but because I wanted every element to look intentional. Precision has power, especially when they expect chaos. Dinner had been polite, dull hums of conversation. Naomi dished lasagna, Elliot poured wine, Brandon tried to talk about how fast time flies. Evelyn smiled with practiced warmth. Diane laughed too loudly. Courtney picked at her salad like it might bite back. Then I stood up. "I want to show you all something," I said, placing my wine glass down with a muted clink. They turned, some politely, some warily, as I tapped the tablet screen. The projector flickered to life. A slideshow. First image, a screenshot of the family email thread titled, "Hail Lancaster Reunion Planning 2014. Every name except mine." Next, Evelyn's reply to Brandon. "Let's keep it small. You know who has always been disruptive." Then, a family photo from that same weekend, smiles staged under lanterns, the caption, "Family first." The room shifted. Utensils stilled. "Just a few highlights," I said. "It's a 10-year series, labeled, time-stamped, geotagged." Naomi leaned against the wall, quiet but vigilant. The slideshow continued. A return to sender envelope postmarked 2016. A wedding program where my name was nowhere listed. A Christmas group chat that went active every year from November to January. Minus me. Brandon looked down. Diane opened her mouth, then shut it. I don't think this is fair, Diane finally said. That was never intentional. Oh, please, Naomi muttered. Evelyn's tone was steel wrapped in silk. We did what we had to. You were unstable. Courtney's fork dropped. I turned slowly toward Evelyn. Unstable? You painted your dorm windows black, she said with feigned concern. You were always a bit dramatic. That was part of an installation, Naomi snapped. It won an award. Elliot didn't speak. He didn't need to. His hand on the back of my chair was enough. I took a breath, then slid a second file to the projector. A waveform appeared on screen, then the transcription beside it. Evelyn Lancaster. The city's changing fast, isn't it? I imagine your connections must be quite useful with all these developers swarming the lakefront. The room dropped 10 degrees. I looked at Naomi. You recorded that? She didn't blink. Of course I did. Courtney closed her eyes. Brandon whispered, Mom? But Evelyn didn't stumble. She smiled. You'll regret this. I met her eyes. I already regretted ever thinking you were family. They left through the same door they once denied me, but I didn't slam it. I simply locked it. Morning stretched across the lake like gold leaf, fragile and endless. The wind had calmed. No more footsteps echoed in the marble foyer, no murmurs behind closed doors. Just the scent of strong coffee and the quiet hum of life beginning again. Naomi sat cross-legged on the patio, nursing her second espresso, sunglasses perched crookedly on her nose. Elliot flipped pancakes in the kitchen, humming to a song only he could hear. Peace didn't crash in. It crept, tentative and soft. But it stayed. I moved through the house barefoot, pausing at the sculpture wall. The pieces hadn't changed, but I had. They no longer whispered of grief. They reflected memory, contained, acknowledged, and no longer in control. A knock at the side door, not the front. That mattered. I opened it to find Brandon standing there, dressed down for once. No tie, no pressed blazer. Just a man holding the hand of a child with big eyes and a sketch pad hugged to her chest. Emma asked if she could meet you, he said. Emma looked up. Are you the one who made the house? I knelt. I am. You like it? She nodded, then opened her sketch pad to reveal a crayon drawing. A wide glass house, a huge tree beside it, and a figure standing tall at the front steps. That's you, she said. You look like a hero. I blinked. From behind me, Naomi whispered, Damn right she does. I handed Emma a wrapped box tied with a red ribbon. This is for you. Sketch pencils. Real ones. Her eyes widened like stars. Thank you. Brandon waited until she ran to Naomi. I won't speak for them, he said quietly. But I needed to say I'm sorry. For staying quiet. For not looking for you when I should have. I nodded. You're here now. That's something. He hesitated. Emma? She looks up to you. She'll grow up knowing the truth. Make sure she grows up asking for it, I said, not swallowing silence. He nodded again, slower, then turned to watch his daughter giggle over Naomi's exaggerated pancake flipping. Later that afternoon, I stood in the studio, sunlight casting a frame around the announcement board. The SIENNA Project, a home for artists without homes. I'd spent years collecting proof. Now I'd collect potential. It would start with 10 scholarships, a mentorship program, a partnership with Naomi's theater and Elliot's architecture firm. For every kid who was told they were too strange, too loud, too much, there would be a door that didn't close behind them. My phone buzzed once. Voicemail from Evelyn Lancaster. You've made your point. Now can we talk like grown-ups? I held the phone for a second. Then I deleted the message. No reply, no echo. Just the lake, the light, and a locked door that I would never open again. They came with pastel smiles and practiced phrases, pretending the decade of silence hadn't existed. They called it a reunion. They spoke of forgiveness without apology, of healing without truth. But the woman who opened the door to them wasn't the same girl they had erased. That girl had withered quietly, counting the cracks in the silence. This woman had counted every omission, cataloged every slight, and turned them into steel. In the house they once believed she'd never own, because they never believed in her at all. They found no rage, only records and resolve. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't curse their names. Instead, she showed them the truth in their own words, played their intentions back to them in their own voices, and asked no questions that hadn't already been answered. She gave them the mirror they had denied her, and let them sit in the reflection of what they had done. Because sometimes justice doesn't arrive in courtrooms or on front pages. Sometimes it arrives in silence, in the absence of validation, in the refusal to engage on their terms. And in that silence, they heard everything. Brandon's daughter, innocent and untainted, drew her as a hero. Not because she shouted or punished, but because she endured and rebuilt. Because she turned isolation into foundation, and pain into passageways for others. This was never just about one exclusion. It was about the idea that some people believe they can decide who belongs, and erase those who do not conform. It was about power masked as tradition and cruelty dressed as order. It was about a family choosing legacy over love, and a daughter choosing truth over approval. When Sienna named her foundation not after her family line, but after the child they tried to unmake, she declared something more permanent than revenge: purpose. The SIENNA Project wasn't an act of retaliation. It was a refusal to let erasure win. It stood as a shelter for every artist cast out by bloodlines that feared color, sound, or difference. For every voice silenced at a dinner table, every child told to dim their light for the comfort of others. This was not about being welcomed back. It was about never needing that door again. Justice may arrive late, but it always arrives carrying memory and flame. And when truth stands tall, no lie, no matter how polished, can hold its shape for long. Let this be the memory. A locked door, not slammed, not shouted through, but closed with dignity. Because some families are born, others are built. And the ones we build from truth, they never fall. If this story stirred something in you, if you've ever sat in silence, waiting for the call that never came, the seat that was never set for you, the apology that still hasn't arrived, know this: you are not alone. You are not forgotten, and you were never the problem. This story isn't just about exclusion. It's about what happens when we stop chasing approval and start building lives that honor who we are. It's about the power of chosen family, of boundaries, of legacy built from truth, not permission. Have you ever had to walk away from people who couldn't see your worth, just to find it on your own terms? Have you ever stood at the threshold of your own life and whispered, "Let them come. I'm not who they remember. I'm who I chose to become"? If you've been there, or if you're standing there now, drop a comment below. Tell me your story. Or just say, "I see you." That's enough. And if you want more stories like this, stories of quiet strength, of reclamation, of people who rose from silence, hit that subscribe button. Because here, we don't just survive exclusion. We rewrite the ending, on our terms. And together, we remember this truth. Family is not who claims you. It's who shows up when the silence gets loud. You weren't invited because you don't represent anything about this family. You're just a system error our mother didn't have the guts to abort. No one else. This was the slap from my sister, Brielle. said to me right there in the golden ballroom, while everyone else was raising their glasses to legacy and lineage. If anyone here has ever been erased from a life they helped build, stay, because this story is for you. The envelope felt heavy in my hand, thicker than it needed to be, wrapped in gold foil like a trophy I was never meant to win. The courier had smiled too widely, perhaps misreading the tension in my face for excitement. I waited until the door clicked shut before I turned it over. No name, just a seal. Inside, the card was pristine, ornate, and impersonal. You are cordially invited to the 60th anniversary gala at the